if you're like me and of recent, most games kind of feel kind of blah, stagnated, and you're reaching out for something different, maybe that doesn't break the pocketbook, I've come across a new game that I wanted to share with you guys. So stick around, give me a few minutes to explain it to you, and hopefully you'll like it as well. Hey everybody, Flatline here. I wanted to take a second to cover a game that I recently discovered. Come across it. I've seen this a few times actually on a few different recommended like roguelite games that I've been searching for because kind of the games of recent the past year or two kind of been stagnated, so I've kind of been branching out a little bit further, waiting on new games. And so anyways, I come across this, and me and my best friend picked it up. It's called Children of Morta. It is a like a dungeon crawler roguelite, but it's not as, I guess, like Hades, right? Where it's very fast. You run out, you know, you're almost guaranteed to die, come back, get a little bit stronger. It's really repetitive, that kind of a roguelike. This one seemed to stretch out a little bit further. Maybe we were just a little bit different at it. I don't really know. But it is co-op. And so we played this online. I believe the game on Steam is 21 and some change, $22. We actually picked this up. We got some cheap Steam keys online, and just open. I got it over on G2A. We paid $5 for the baseline game. I have currently looks like 8.5 hours total in the game. 8.5 hours so far that me and him have played the entirety of it combined. And we just finished the storyline. And I will tell you, that seems very short, right? 8.5 hours. But I'll get more into that. But I will tell you that so far, especially for the $5, it's worth every penny. The game's absolutely amazing. I would even venture to say that it's worth the $20 asking price, and I'm sure it probably goes on sale too on Steam regularly. But definitely worth it. The combat in the game is very fluid. The skill system and trees, again, are very nice laid out. The progression seems to be pretty good. So, the 8.5 hours that we have in it, we have beat the main storyline through the game. And then once you beat the main storyline through the game, you unlock a new game plus. So we can run back through the whole thing again, continuing to get our characters stronger because we obviously didn't cap all of our characters. And I thought, well, this is kind of odd. You know, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't look into the game or anything. We just went into this open mind just to see what it was like. So we put the 8.5 in it. We beat the game, unlocked new game plus. So that's going to allow us to run through this whole thing. So even if we took us exactly another 8.5 hours to do it again, you know, we're looking at 17 hours worth of playtime. Probably realistically, we're going to be closer to like 20 because I'm assuming the new game plus is going to be harder. It's going to take us a little bit more to run through. So if you think 20 hours worth of gameplay time for a $20 game, that's pretty solid, but that's not even the end of it. The game then has a story mode, which is what we played, and then it has what's called a family trials. We have not even touched the family trials yet. What I have read on it on the main menu is that family trials then becomes a hardcore roguelike. So you pick your character, you start a tile set, and you run through. And as you start with your character essentially at 0, and as you kill mobs, you level up, you spend your skill points. I'm presuming you get them quicker than you do in the story mode, and you attempt to beat the entirety of it. But if you die, you start back at 0, and then you have to start with a whole new tile set and modifiers and things of that nature. So that's really neat. Like I said, we haven't even touched that yet, so I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. But of course, the first thing up for us is going to be the new game plus. So I'll kind of touch real fast on this. You know, obviously a little bit of a spoiler alert. If you you can skip ahead on this. I can put a timestamp somewhere to tell you where to skip ahead if you don't want any spoilers, but I'm going to kind of cover a little bit about the base and what is here, as well as the characters in the game. So this is your house, and this, well, I'll take a step back. I want to say that I absolutely love the art styling in this game. I grew up in the era of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, so this definitely gives me this like nostalgic vibe, right, for the SNES pixelated look, and I love it. I think it's great. The lighting in the game is really neat that plays on the pixel style. So on to the house. This is the house where your entire family is, and this all kind of comes out through the story. But you have a workshop here, and this is where you can buy upgrades for armor, damage, crit chance, crit damage, dodge, things like that. Then you have this Book of Rhea, and this again is kind of similar to the workshop. You just get, this is a little bit more of like XP boost and shrines, how long shrines will last. You have certain skills that you can pick up through the game, rune abilities that are your Q and E skills, and you can decrease the cooldown with those. So that's just a whole nother like upgrade path. Everything takes gold, but in this game it's Morv, M-O-R-V, which is essentially your currency for everything. So when you kill mobs, you complete levels, you get Morv, and that's what you spend everywhere. So the characters, when you first start the game, you're only going to start with one character. Or I take that back, you'll have, no, yeah, you do start with one. You start with the guy that's got the Borden sword. So let's just jump down here. I can go to chapter select. And then this is, I'll just pick just a random spot. So you're going to start the game with this guy. He's just a standard Borden sword. For me, I didn't really care for his play style. Maybe he does build into something a little bit further down the road, but I just couldn't get into his play style at all. So off I went with him. Next, you're going to have Linda here, and this is just your standard ranger. She's just going to be a bow shooter. She's got a neat little skill set, but we wound up playing her quite a bit. My best friend played her a lot, so what we did is we kind of paired. There's a couple of ranged characters and then melee characters, and so we picked two melees that we liked and we would play them, and then two ranged and we would play them. So we got the Borden sword, you got a standard archer. This is kind of your stealth assassin rogue. Very fast hitting, but also squishy, of course. He can stealth out. You got a monk here, who, again, is fast melee. So we would typically pair these two together. I would play the assassin and he would play the monk. And he kind of builds shield and barrier as he punches, whatever. You know, you can go through the skill sets on him. This guy here, Joey, he's like a barbarian berserker, if you will. He's got a sledgehammer here. He swings very slow, but he's very tanky, and he kind of like builds up rage essentially when people hit him, and then he can, you know, retaliate based on that. He seems like he would be pretty decent later on. I'm going to try to build him a little bit more. Eventually I'm going to try to build them all, but his mechanic was a little bit odd as far as not skill mechanic, but actual how he moves mechanic, I guess. He has this very odd pause. None of the other characters seem to have this, but when you would press a button to swing, he almost stood still for, you know, a quarter to half a second. Then he would swing, and then once he would swing, it was like a solid second before you could move again. And I found that to be very off-putting. It was really hard for me to get used to that. And I felt like I was getting hit a lot because I would run up, I would try to hit some mobs, and I would try to run because they're casting a spell on me, but I physically can't move for that second after I swing, and I get hit by whatever it was, or I would be stuck in a poison pool or something like that. So I didn't play him a whole lot. This is Lucy. She's my number one played. She is a mage, fireball caster. Um, and she can also transform into, like a fire elemental, I suppose, and do a different skill set when she's in that fire elemental form. She's really cool. So we would pair her being ranged, and then he would play Linda. So we would pair these two ranged characters together, and then we would pair these two melees together. I will tell you, hands down, the two ranged characters flat out dominated this game. Uh, it seemed like every time we would go in with melee, we could go pretty far. Sometimes we might complete the stage, we might not. We could turn right around and come back in with our double ranged, and we would dominate the entire level without question. I don't know that we really ever lost with those two. That seems to be a little bit overpowered. And then this is the last character that you unlock. I guess you would pronounce it a pan. She's kind of in a middle ground. She's a hybrid. And she does melee, but it's a ranged melee in a frontal cone, right? And she shoots a few meters out in front of you with this frontal cone, and she seems to be very much a CC character. She is one I'm very interested in that I will play more solo. She seems like she would probably go good with almost every character. But I think, though, based on other skill sets that I see coming out, that she's probably going to pair the best with Linda. And the reason being that I think that she would pair the best with Linda is because Apan has... she's mainly crowd control. So almost everything she does slows mobs, but she can also cast shields on people. Herself and family members, which is cool. But when she slows, all of her stuff slows, but Linda has passives that increases her damage to slowed enemies. So I think that this would be nice because her skills are melee ranged that knock back to create more distance, and then of course she is purely distance that's going to do more damage to crowd controlled enemies. So those two would probably pair really well as well. So really fast, I'll kind of touch on this. This is your family skill tree, I guess. So your family skill tree is that as you play a character, so like John, for instance, when he becomes level 4 and you've spent the skill points, you would unlock his level 4 family trait. Or skill, family skill, whatever you want to call it. And that would come, well, where is his? So, like Kevin's here, right? His level 4 is Sharp Kid. And he instructs the rest of the family where the weak parts are, increases critical hit damage. So everybody's got one, right? Increase max health, blah, 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 right? Everybody's got something different, okay? And then as you level each character up and you spend the points, you eventually unlock these permanent family member buffs. So even if you're not playing that character, they still get the buffs. So that's kind of a neat passive part of the roguelite, right? Is that even if you're not playing a family member, you get their buffs, and some of the family passives allow you to call that family member in a time of need based off certain things. Which is really neat. Like this one, for instance. If you evade at just the right moment, Lucy, this one here, will appear, and she throws down a decoy for you. Even if you're not playing her, any one of these characters can trigger that. So that's really neat. All these characters, you start with John, and all you do is you just play the main storyline. You just play through the story. You don't have to hunt for anything specific. Just play through it, and as you play through, you will eventually unlock, Linda. Then you unlock Kevin. Then you unlock Mark. And then you unlock Lucy. Then Joey. Then Apan. Okay, in that exact order. And so you just play the game. It unlocks. It's really cool. I will tell you the story. Definitely watch it. It's really neat. I'm horrible about it, just to be honest with you. I typically don't read the stories. I don't watch any of that stuff. It mostly bores me. I actually watched this one, and it was really good. Definitely worth it. So, respecking in this game, I think, is going to be a little bit more difficult. As of right now, you will see I have these 3 eggs. In all the 8.5 hours that we played, we only found 3. And in order to respec a character, it costs that egg to respec a character. So you're not going to be able to respec just left and right if you wanted to. You will also notice that, say, Joey here, he has nothing underneath this bar, right? His skill level, but nothing's here. But if I look at Lucy, you will see that Lucy has a corruption fatigue, and what it does is it reduces her total max HP. And some of these other characters, like Linda, right? These were the last 2 that me and him played. So corruption fatigue is that if you repeatedly run with a specific family member, you're going to kill in the corruption, right? That's kind of the main story part of it. And as you continually run with the same family member over and over, they become fatigued with corruption, and it reduces your max HP. I think we've seen as high as like 30, 35%. I know we've seen 30% max HP reduction, which is huge. So, and it cures just on its own. You just go play with another character. So that's why we would swap off. We would do runs with the dual ranged, and then once they got fatigued, we would run with the dual melees. And then once they got fatigued, then we would come back, and by that time, these 2 would have no fatigue. Or, again, you can cure their fatigue with an orb or an egg. And again, they're kind of rare, so skill trees are fairly simple. Let's see if I can go into her skill tree. Skill trees are fairly simple. Like with Lucy here, these are your family traits. These are passively unlocked. You don't have to do anything with it. This is just as you spend skill points over here, as you spend skill points in the skill tree with Lucy, she eventually unlocks her level 4 family trait, then her level 8 family trait, her level 12, and then eventually her 20. And of course, these are like your ultimate top skills. I'm not going to get into builds or anything like that, right? Because I don't know what is the best. I can tell you right now what I have set up I really like. Aside from this, I don't really know that I would use this again. I kind of put a point into it thinking it might be decent. Not really so much, but that's for another video if you guys want to get into that. But I will say, though, that overall, impressions of this game first, you know, only being 8 hours into it, again, it's worth every penny, guys. If you're looking for a roguelike, if you enjoy those, you enjoy the dungeon crawler roguelike, it's worth the money. Go out, buy it. Like I said, I got mine on a cheap Steam key, but it's still worth the full price. Or if you can catch it on sale, put it on your wish list. Lord, your wish list. And if it goes on sale one day or something, snatch it up, give it a shot. Check it out. It's definitely worth every penny. Let me know if you guys have played it. If you've played it, what are your thoughts on it? What you would change, what you wouldn't. And if you haven't, make sure to get it and let me know when you do play it. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's YouTube, so you know what to do with all the buttons down below. Till the next video, peace.